Yes, thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to be here at the launch of the Southern African Agricultural Initiative. We at the Institute have long taken an interest in the fate of agriculture in South Africa, both for what it means for the sustainability of that sector, but also for what it means for South Africa as a whole. Now, I don't think it's much of a secret that today's proceedings are taking place against the background of some very concerning developments in the country. And we have been at the forefront of challenging them, trying to engage on them, but concerning nonetheless. And we think that the time is right for an organization such as this to represent the constituency it does, and we believe that how it manages to articulate its interests could be more important for the country than you realize. In a sense, we are all commercial farmers. Now, many years ago, my colleague Terreance Corrigan shared a platform with a farmer from Zimbabwe. And he literally went to tears as he thought about an incident where a number of his colleagues had come to him and said, "What's happening in this country?" And he assured them this was just political turbulence. Everything would be all right. And he said if only he had sounded the warning that everyone was actually feeling inside them, perhaps they could have done something. Perhaps not, but perhaps. And for several decades, we at the Institute have been able to say with conviction, based on our knowledge of South Africa's governance, of politics in the region, that South Africa has a good future even if the past is unsettled. And unfortunately, that is no longer the case. As much as we would want to say it will be right, we have to be guided by actual developments, by the course of policy, by the promises being made by senior figures. And from that, we must say that as we stand here, South Africa's future as a free, open, and prosperous society is in doubt. Now, the Institute was established in the 1920s, 1929 to be precise. That makes us the oldest NGO in the country. And we were also the most long-standing and influential anti-apartheid organization. What we campaigned for was not just the abolition of racial discrimination, but a society based on freedom. The ability to live your own life as you want, the ability to take care of your family as you see fit, a government that is supportive but is not overbearing. Now, a history of the Institute that was published in 1979 describes our work in the following terms. Trying to influence the minds of men, by its very nature imponderable. Many believe that the effort has been meaningful and derive comfort from the fact that proposals that appeared at first heretical, when expounded on Institute platforms, have become commonplace today. Remember, we were established in 1929. Things that we were saying there about the possibility of a South Africa with a common citizenship were laughable. There was no serious political party represented in Parliament at the time that thought that. Today, that's common cause. Now, this is the role we continue to play today, under a new set of circumstances, unfortunately, with many of the same problems. I'd just like to set out a few challenges that we've identified that inform what I said earlier about the crisis we face. Less than half of young people in South Africa work, and on current trends, they will never work. I used to deliver a lecture to a group of American college alumni, and I said, I'm not talking about McDonald's work, I'm talking about no work. And they're always stunned by that. There are now more people receiving social grants than in employment. The quality of our maths and science education is rated amongst the worst in the world, even by South Africans themselves. The World Economic Forum, I think, put it at 128 out of 140. About 5 in every 100 children will go on to pass maths and matric with a grade of 50% or more. 500,000 people have been murdered since 1994, which is 30 times higher than most other countries in which we have information. And I can tell you, having traveled a good bit of Africa, it is more dangerous than most other African countries. Government debt levels have doubled in the past decade, and the the deficit we are now facing was last seen during the apartheid era. And the interesting political point, less than half of people with matric, along with less than a quarter of university graduates, are inclined to vote for the ANC. In fact, there are fewer people who will vote for the ANC likely than will not vote at all. We've also seen rates of violent protest escalate in the past couple of years. And what this starts to tell us is that one of the great certainties of South Africa since 1994 is that the ANC's time as the head of government may be coming to an end. Now, as fiscal and public pressure has been building on the government, the response has not been to reassess policy. It has been to display an ever more dangerous and reckless behavior. It turns to racial nationalist rhetoric. It sides with some of the most oppressive regimes in the world. It promotes media tribunals, hate speech laws to deal with unemployment. There's ever more state encroachment, so state pharmaceutical companies, state banking, state mining companies. We'll deal with unemployment via redistribution. We'll talk about expanding unemployment via strict racial quotas, more labor laws, more minimum wage laws. And perhaps most concerning, and I think particularly for this audience, is that it has become quite vociferous on the question of property rights. Now, we South Africans tend towards optimism. Others sell rapport. We often forget to say part of that, us healthcare and psychology. And we believe we can beat the odds. And we've done it before. A Dutch diplomat once told me that his final communique when he was at the South African Embassy in 1989 was South Africa would have a civil war where millions would die. When he returned in 1998, he said actually South Africa's won. But there's a downside to this. The idea that recognizing the scale and seriousness of our problems is some way wrong. Heretical, as was said about some of the Institute's positions. It's almost like you are taking a religious belief and questioning it. And if you raise these concerns, I guarantee you will have a chorus of voices, and not just in government, but in business and civil society, in the media, in academia, that will stand up and call you all sorts of things. They'll suggest that you are motivated by pessimism, by racism. Yet, in our experience, there are large and growing numbers of South Africans, black and white, rich and poor, urban and rural. We meet them all the time. I can show you numerous emails with people with names like Nkulu and Kiza and Fadamerda, and even names like Burke. They fear for their future. They fear for the future of their children even more. And they're right to do so. We can show you polling data on public confidence, how it's declined year by year. And we can show you something even more revealing, which is how much private wealth has exited the country. You know, we are confronted by these people. They're decent, ordinary, hardworking people who seek a future for themselves. They maybe do not have the option of relocating overseas or the political power that might protect them. They see through the false confidence of much of the business community. They are appalled at the corruption and ineptitude of the ANC, the duplicitousness, the lack of principle of the DA, and the racism and unruliness of the EFF. They hope that there is someone who is going to stand and speak for them. And I think these people are probably substantively represented amongst your own constituents. I'm told that your aim is to represent the family-based commercial farm. These are often the smaller operators who are often very vulnerable to the larger operators, not so much in the sense of commercial competition, but people who will throw you under the bus because they can deal for themselves. This is a concern we have. You do not have access to the political influence, and you're vulnerable to that. You're vulnerable to other people's machinations. And today we're at a watershed moment. This is the point that I think, the point in our history, where we need to declare a willingness to confront, and however heretical that may seem, the implications of the ideological currents that are shaping the decisions and the policies that the government is increasingly looking towards. I'd like to take you back in history to a bit, for some explanation here. The African National Congress, the organization that would become it, was established in 1912. It was essentially a moderate and conservative organization that sought equal rights, completely reasonable expectations. And what people forget is that their loyalty to the country was such that during the Second World War, they actually suspended their campaigns to support the Smuts government in its war effort. Unfortunately, when in 1948 white South Africa opted for apartheid and declared that it was not willing to engage, it foolishly drove them into the arms of the Soviets and the East Germans. I always love talking about South Africa to audiences in Berlin because I can point literally to the building where the ANC used to print much of its material. Through the influence of the South African Communist Party, it adopted a grand meta-narrative, a grand strategic approach which it calls the National Democratic Revolution. This was then adopted by the ANC in 1969. It was based on the theory of imperialism that the Soviet leader Vladimir Lenin originally coined. In its understanding, the wealth and the property of the colonizers is always, in all cases, the consequence of exploitation of the colonized peoples. This was adapted to South Africa to say that while the white population had been integrated into the society, it still remained essentially a colonizing force, and that ultimately freedom would only be possible if it could be dispossessed. Part of this implies a rejection of orthodox property rights, capitalism, the market economy. And it's important to bear in mind that this is not just a piece of history. The ANC has regularly recommitted itself to this right up until this year. Now, matters took a turn when Nelson Mandela went to Davos in 1991, and I understand after a conversation with the Chinese, people who call themselves communists but seem to have learned that it doesn't work. And he made a speech in which he essentially jettisoned the idea of nationalization and converted South Africa to a market economy. It was a great risk for him since the ANC had itself not at this point agreed to it. He emerged from Davos to tell the ANC they had to change, and for a number of years, its economic policy, codified in the growth, employment, and redistribution policy, or GEAR, actually showed an understanding of the importance of market forces. Now, matched with low interest rates, cheap surface electricity, low household debt, and a commodity boom, South Africa, under President Thabo Mbeki in particular, made a great deal of progress. We can show you data from this. Employment was going up, things were getting better. But Mbeki made a number of mistakes. The first of them was deploying Jacob Zuma to KwaZulu-Natal to try and arrest the Zulu nationalist vote. This was the one part of the African voting public that the ANC had not been able to capture. Foolishly, however, they did not realize that once Zuma held this weapon, it could be turned on anyone, and it was turned on Zuma, it was turned on Mbeki. The other thing was South Africa's unconscionable AIDS policies, which, depending on the numbers you look at, perhaps cost millions of lives. Certainly inflicted great damage and did a great deal of damage, and I know this from personal experience, to South Africa's reputation overseas. I remember getting an email from a friend of mine who said, "You have a president who doesn't believe in AIDS, right? It's not how you want to be known." But what happened was that the left of the ANC, those who had been marginalized as South Africa turned to a more market-friendly approach, were able to use this to claw back their influence. And they were able to ride back into power on the coattails of Jacob Zuma. We had a coalition essentially of the looters and the leftists. While corruption escalated, to the point now that not even the government denies how serious the problem is. Policy was shifted again more and more in a stated direction. And we believe that the ideological turn has been more damaging than state capture. State capture, of course, has a great has occupied our minds. It's important, but it does not explain everything. The ideologues whose policies were central to the disaster of the past decade are still in the ruling party, and government is pressing ahead with many of the same policies. And its primary target now is the erosion of property rights. There's people here whose businesses and livelihoods depend on the ownership of property. This is something that must concern you very deeply. Over the last 10 years, since about 2008, we have catalogued 30 separate attempts to expand the discretion of the state over private property. 30. And that's probably not a full list. It started with attacks on the idea of willing buyer, willing seller, the ANC conference of Polokwane. Turn to the dropping of the proactive land acquisition strategy in 2010, the agricultural green paper in 2011, which warned of every risk we now face, from land ceilings through to expropriation without compensation. The 20% proposal in the National Development Plan, the 50-50 proposal that came off its heels, the Land Restitution Amendment Act that sought to provoke hundreds of thousands of new land claims without the budget to finance them, Property Valuation Act, the Agri Land Bill that wanted to make the state custodian of all land, and I could go on. Now, in parallel with this policy process, there was something that I think was even more insidious, and that was ongoing attack on commercial farming. The idea that this is deep rooted in ANC thinking, and you go back to the publications in the 70s and 80s. Even while they would talk about not targeting civilians, farming communities were something of a special case. And we see this in much of the narrative. They stole the land. They were responsible for the original sin. They refused their staff, refused to pay wages, refused to get involved with building a better South Africa. I don't think that there's another occupational group in the country that's been the target of a political slogan calling for their death: kill the work, kill the farmer. And the purpose of propaganda is to stigmatize. What you want to do is you want to make your target so objectionable that when you move on him or on her or on the interests they represent, there'll be no one to stand up and say, no, but we won't allow that. This person is our neighbor. This person is our fellow country. It's about breaking down the ability to empathize. And I think if one looks at some of the commentary that one sees in the media from time to time, this has been effective. More than that, I think there is also it's also had the effect of splitting the agricultural sector. Those who might seek to look for their own, to cut a deal at the expense of the others. Something that we have written about and we are concerned about. But here's the thing, once you inflame anger, once you make it possible to move on one group, you can expand that precedent as far as you want. Whether it's farmers or miners, it could be factories, it could be legal practices, it could be import-export licenses. You need a precedent. Now, farmers, we think, were also targeted because their leadership meant that they could deal with this issue quietly by building a good relationship with the ANC. They did not understand, and we ignored our warnings, that what was at play here was not a bit of reckless populism. It wasn't land hunger. There was an organized strategy at play which was deeply, deeply ideological. And understand what ideology means is the way people think. And this was imbibed by the ANC for decades and decades and decades. I don't wish to say that it's universally held within the ANC, but it is influential. We believe it was a terrible mistake for farmer representatives to discuss the policy pattern, just as it was a mistake for them to write off the stigmatization campaign as uncoordinated happenstance. And we regret that as hard as we tried to see what is in front of them, and to appreciate the ideology that they bring forward, they refused to do so. Organized agriculture, in a sense, tried to play a game where they would represent government's interests to their constituency rather than farmers' interests to government. And I think this stands as one of the worst examples of political appeasement and capitulation we have seen. And I think many of the government were taken by surprise. And I think, unfortunately, the unwillingness to stand up to these events as they were happening 10 years ago has brought us to the brink that we are at now. And that brink is represented by the expropriation bill. Currently going before Parliament. The bill was tabled in December last year, and this was a year after Cyril Ramaphosa was in power. So, for those who say that, well, there's a long game at play here, and Cyril doesn't really believe this, I would say, look at the evidence. This is not a hangover of the Zuma era. This is an initiative of the current one. Now, our colleague Anthea Jeffrey is probably the world's foremost authority on these matters, and she's written an extensive critique of the expropriation bill. Much attention has been paid to the clauses which provide for nil compensation, and some comfort has been drawn from the idea that there is a list of 5 conditions, and this will limit its applicability. Don't be fooled. Those are 5 examples. The law itself clearly says that EWC, expropriation without compensation, or the payment of nil compensation, will not be limited to these circumstances. I would like to just read you a few paragraphs from Dr. Jeffrey's analysis. What concerns me is the attitude given to municipalities. Municipalities in South Africa, well, once again, I'm not saying anything controversial here, are amongst the most incapacitated and damaged institutions we have. An institution, a municipality wanted to expropriate residential and other land, say to reduce spatial apartheid or to build RDP houses, must begin by investing the property and negotiating for its purpose with the owner. If no agreement is reached, the municipality may issue a notice of its intention to expropriate. In this document, list wide representations on the proposed expropriation and the compensation offered. The municipality is obliged to consider any representations received, but it need not respond to them or give reasons for rejecting them. The power is already very clearly located on the side of government. Once it has taken these preliminary steps, the municipality may issue a notice of expropriation. Under this notice, both ownership and the right to possess the property will automatically pass to it on the date set out in the notice. So you get your letter and that's it. The date for transfer of ownership could be a week after the service of the notice. The only time limit is that it may not be before the notice is served, which I suppose that makes sense. The right to possess the property could pass to the municipality within another week. So 2 weeks from receiving it, you would lose it. Now, under the bill, this is very interesting. Under the bill, law-abiding homeowners will have fewer rights than criminals legally using their warehouses to store heroin. Though the warehouse may be seized by the state, this can only be done after its use for criminal purposes has been proved and a court order for its confiscation has been obtained. But a home can be expropriated by a municipality by following the simple steps set out above, without ever having to prove to a court that the expropriation is really in the public interest, or that the compensation is truly just and equitable. I'd like to point out at this point, the people most vulnerable to this are quite possibly the country's poor. Someone who owns an RDP house, someone who has maybe been able to save up a little bit to build a small property on a stretch of ground that perhaps a politically connected businessman wants to build a golf course. That person does not have recourse to expensive lawyers or political power. So the implications are so profound. Many South Africans could potentially be at the mercy of a state that has often shown itself corrupt and inept, afflicted by significant governance problems, and is now empowered to deprive people of their property without particularly stringent processes, or we would say without adequate compensation. But more important is the bill's definition of expropriation. This is carefully worded, and for expropriation to be recognized, it requires the state to actually take ownership of the property, not merely to take it away from someone else. Does this sound familiar? It should. 2013 Agri-SA case, which held that an expropriation had not taken place because the state had itself not taken possession of mineral resources, but had merely taken them as custodian for the nation as a whole. That doesn't, that provides very little comfort to somebody who will actually lose the use or the value of his or her property. And we have long warned that it is the intention of the government to turn that court ruling, which was, if the credit of the court, confined to those specific circumstances, into a general principle, and we believe that moment is now come. It is important to note that there is method behind this. Private property rights are a key target of the National Democratic Revolution. Without giving the state considerable latitude of individuals' private property, the type of state that the NDR envisages, whether you want to define it as a sort of mighty interventionist developmental state or a socialist or a communist society, I think there's differences of opinion within the ANC. They all require that the state must have the ultimate say over your property. The SACP, however, warned against rushing in. Don't try and take everything at once because you will encounter resistance. The idea has been more like boiling a frog. A little bit, year by year. This, however, is a culmination moment. Once passed, this law will have profound changes on the way property is held and the way property can be protected in South Africa. significance of the constitutional change is that it would remove or significantly constrain your ability to make a constitutional challenge. Now, given what is at stake, rise or fall of South Africa over the next decade will depend as much as anything on the passage of this single piece of legislation and the constitutional amendment that accompanies it. Both of these represent the culmination of a decades-long process, and they are themselves the product of a much, much older ideological battle. Now, we have long warned that a further endpoint could be the taking of custodianship of all South African land. This is what happened with water, this is what happened with minerals. It's been proposed a number of times by senior figures in the ANC, and it was one of the recommendations in the land orders. Often forgotten. Now, we have often been dismissed as alarmists. In fact, I was quite publicly dismissed as an irresponsible alarmist on the radio. But just a couple of weeks ago, this issue was thrust into the spotlight again. A senior official from the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform was at Davos. Now remember, Davos is not a gathering of wild-eyed communists. These are people with money to spend. People whose sympathies we want. They were asked, how are you going to avoid a Zimbabwe-style situation? Well, he said, we're going to pass a Land Act like a National Water Act, our National Environment Act, and our National Resources Act. And we will change the constitution so as to vest all land in the people of South Africa, essentially to abolish private land ownership. Something tells me that this didn't go down well amongst those people listening to him. The de Klerk Foundation then asked, so is this the end game? To which we would say, that seems to be it. Informal assurances that one might read on the page of the Financial Mail, I think count a lot less than somebody using this platform to say it. So why is this happening? Well, I can tell you why it's not. There is no widespread desire to go back to the land. South Africa is 66% urbanized, and irrespective of whether you are in China, in South Korea, in the Soviet Union, or in the United States, once populations leave their land, they do not go back. Agriculture is a difficult business, as you can all attest. There has never been any convincing polling evidence. Our own polls or polls conducted by others, not even by the government, that shows a huge desire for this. This is not to say land reform is not important, or that there are not people who would like to get into farming, and we need to give those people support. But there is not a great land hunger, certainly not for agricultural land. Land reform can be carried out in a manner that respects property rights and provides adequate support. That it hasn't is because of government choices. So that does not explain it. So what does explain it? Well, the ANC knows that its long-term future is in doubt. It will do well in the coming election, we think about 60%. But it is losing the votes of the more educated, it is losing the votes of the growing urban population. And it is no longer able to offer improvements in living standards as a motivation to vote. Let me be clear on this. The ANC has actually done very well in improving the day-to-day living standards of ordinary South Africans. If one looks at houses built, if one looks at electricity connections, water supply, give it their due, they've done well on that. The problem is that to take that onto the next level needs a more modern mindset. People want jobs. They want an education system that will ensure their kids can get to stay into the middle class. You know, we would like a standard of living that makes it, that makes immigration to New Zealand unattractive, because we've got it all here. This is what we hear from black South Africans, white South Africans, brown South Africans constantly. However, in order to do that, the ANC would have to modernize. Can it do this? Well, the problem is that in order to do this, would undermine a great deal of the way that it conducts business. Many of those implicated in corruption and state capture remain on the party's National Executive Committee. There's very little incentive to do so. And bear in mind, once again, that this ideology that underpins this has been there for a long, long time. It's probably the work of generations to start to work it out. So in other words, the ANC is rapidly running out of room to maneuver. It is trying to find the logical prison of its own making. Well, now, unable to reform, it will preside over an economy that is unable to grow. Last year, we had at least 1%, plus we saw, for the first time in years, a massive outflow from the JSE. This was not under Zuma, this was under Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa far more genial, far more acceptable to business. And to cover that, it's like the likelihood is that it will reach for the tools that are available. Racial nationalist incitement, attacking critics, perhaps eroding civil liberties over time, should it come to that. And what we are witnessing now on property rights is not about public pressure, it's not about poverty, it's not about farmers even, it's not about historical injustices. And it's irresponsible to rationalize it as something it is not. What we are seeing now is what we call a definitive stage in the battle of ideas. What kind of society will South Africa become? What sort of society can South Africa become? Will a future ANC or a future government look to reform, look to taking hard decisions that will lay the foundation for a free, non-racial society of people living in harmony that will drive up 6-7% growth, give our children the opportunities they need, or will we sink into some sort of socialist morass of poverty, oppression, and state control? The default position, I think, leads towards the second conclusion. So this is the battle for the future of South Africa. Not only for South Africa, because what happens here will echo throughout the subcontinent. This could be a battle for the Southern Africa. And the odds there are not well stacked. You know, for every Botswana there's an Angola. But it won't happen. It's bad. It will destroy the country, and the government knows this. It's all just politics. Well, that's what we got from the mining industry. We warned that the mining charter wouldn't stop there. The Minerals and Petroleum Development Act, that was just the first step. En as ek in Afrikaans kan oorslaan, kyk hoe lyk ons nou. For 10 years, we tried to convince the agricultural sector of that, even though its own immediate future was on the line. And there was almost willful refusal to see it. It's interesting though, we speak to many people in government, we speak to many people who occupied influential positions in the past. And it's interesting how many of them will tell us privately, in less guarded moments, usually over a bottle of clip that what we were saying 10 years ago was actually advice they shouldn't take. Another response is how many South African or foreign investors are prepared to find out if this analysis is true, roll the dice. Well, let me tell you something. South Africa's problems have been described not just as making South Africa attractive to foreign investors, but to local investors too. I can't tell you how many people I speak to who say, yeah, they're seeing opportunities in Tanzania, they're seeing opportunities in Kenya. These are people who are quite happy to remain in South Africa, but they want their money elsewhere. And it says something when they would rather go to a society like that. A society that's far less developed. Not to Australia, not to New Zealand, not to South Korea, because they do not see South Africa's most developed state as a good prospect. A former colleague of mine actually once asked a very well-heeled dinner. So when Ramaphosa was elected, all of you who were singing his praises, how many brought your money back from overseas? The room went absolutely dead silent, apparently. Well, as I say, money talks. And there is something else. The most compelling answer, perhaps, is that if we look at our region, no liberation movement that employed an armed struggle has been forced out of power. SWAPO in Namibia, the MPLA in Angola, Frelimo, Mozambique, ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe. Where there have been democratic reverses, talking about countries like Zambia, which do not have that ideological baggage. So sure, Zambia was a dictatorship for a long time, but it was a kind of civilian dictatorship. It didn't have that heroic narrative behind it. And I think be sure of one thing, for many in the ANC, they look at Zimbabwe and they see the shortages of food and medicine and pretty much everything else. They see the news blackouts and whatever. And they see one big message, that despite all this, ZANU-PF as a party remains in power. And if this sounds off the wall, I just want to read you something else. A couple of weeks ago, a dusty old beamer was discovered that 5 of our largest trading investment partners had sent to the presidency, giving some feedback on what South Africa needed. Well, the ANC's response, and this came from within the presidency of the ANC. The African National Congress has noted the deep concern the interference by the Western imperialist forces like the USA, UK, Germany, Netherlands, and Switzerland. I think the Swiss would be very surprised to know they're imperialists into the affairs of South Africa. The ANC condemns this dramatic holier-than-thou stance of these former colonizers, and we would not like to relate to them the history of master-slave relations, etc., etc. The irony is that this was what they were saying was not even contentious. It was what the government itself has said in Parliament. But there's a certain conspiratorial mindset that should leave us all quite stunned. And our foreign policy positions should be sufficient to raise very important questions about whether any ideological reform is possible at all, let alone about a new dawn being underway. Remember, Cyril Ramaphosa has called for the lifting of sanctions against Zimbabwe. Now, frankly, Jacob Zuma probably had a slightly better record on Zimbabwe than either Ramaphosa or Mbeki. We had our ambassador to Venezuela claiming that we're going to send out an army to defend them. I don't think we have the apposite assets to do that, but and these are South Africa's foreign policy peers. South Africa is seeking the company of countries with very little to offer and whose prescriptions simply cannot be reconciled with anything that speaks to a decent future for the country. As I come to the end here, I'd just like to assure you that our criticisms of what is happening today are not just directed at the ANC. It is all the more disappointing to see the lack of courage within the DA. It was once said of the leadership of the Palestinians that they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity, and I think that perhaps the current leadership of the DA might take that to heart. What do they stand for? Well, it doesn't seem to be non-racism anymore. They seem to have replaced what was a very proud liberal heritage with a poorly tailored, ill-conceived, and more or less counterfeit version of the ANC. Believe me, if people want the ANC, they know where to get the original. There seems to be very little reward to be in doing this. And it seems as though they're betting that as long as nothing better comes along, their current voters will continue voting for them, but maybe if they can get best voters down the road, they're happy to be done with the voters they have at the moment. Now, whether these dangers can be countered or reversed depends on one thing alone, and that is the ability to force a new balance of power in South Africa's battle of ideas. This isn't just about holding up a law here, this is about trying to influence the way people think. Battle of ideas theory holds that the winner of any great ideological struggle will ultimately be the side that injects the greatest volume of compelling arguments into the public domain. It's often said that the Vietnam War was not lost by the Americans in Southeast Asia, but on the street of the living rooms of America. This, put differently, it is the ability to shape and command public opinion that will determine policy. And it's quite pointless, to try and appeal to the government, to the ANC, or to anyone else that what they're doing is crazy, unless they can be made to see that what they're doing is counterproductive for their own interests. Can they be brought around to this? Create enough pressure for such a balance, your ideological opponent may change their perception of the balance of the forces and pull back. This will not necessarily mean they will change their minds. It's not interested, not instantly. But it means that you will buy time, you will buy an opportunity to change the environment around which they operate. A couple of years ago, when the question of the nationalization of the mines was very much on the front pages, polling was showing about a third of South Africans were in favour, about a third were opposed, about a third had no opinion. The big question was what was being done to try and convince that other third that this was a bad idea. Instead, we had mining executives saying things like, we're going to talk to the reasonable people in the ANC. Great, you're going to talk to the people in the ANC who already agree with you. That's insane. And you really can't hold it against your opponents that laugh at you. Now, we at the IRR fight that battle every day. we inject enormous amounts of information into the public domain in pursuit of the same principles that we adopted 90 years ago. We unapologetically champion the vision of a democratic and truly non-racial society, founded on the freedom of the sovereign individual. We encourage each of you here to join us in that endeavor. Visit our website and become a friend. Now, we closed many of our addresses in 2018 by saying this. We cannot guarantee you that we will win because it is now late in the day, more apparent than ever that those who assured you that there was nothing to fear have been wrong all along. But we can guarantee you that we will fight on, and we know we did all we can. And I think this applies to an organization like this as well. For you here at the launch of this initiative, we encourage you to face the present as it is, not as you wish it would be, to pursue the future that you envisage. There is no doubt that the commercial farming community requires better and more focused representation. It needs to be represented, it needs to be led, not led by the nose. We encourage your leadership to represent your constituency in the fullest sense, placing the interests of those family-based commercial farmers front and center. Be prepared to face criticism. Winston Churchill said, you found an enemy, good, and then you stood up for something. That will be the marker of your success. Be willing to face your opponents with resolve. If they do not believe that there is a reason to respect you, they will not. But do deal with them honorably. Believe what the evidence reveals and hold to principle. Many South Africans and many interest groups now find themselves on the edge of a cliff because they did not believe, they were misled, or they allowed themselves to be misled of the realities of the circumstances in which they now find themselves. They have accordingly failed to find a formula for engagement and leadership that protects their interests and advances those of all the wonderful people of our country. Now, whether the South African Agricultural Initiative will succeed, this remains to be seen. And that, I would say, is your great challenge.